Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Friday trading trends, ETF edition, all-time high edition. Congratulations, we made it. New SPY all-time highs. The market looked like it was happening. A lot of momentum going to the upside here. We kind of called this. We said they're going to have an emotional breakthrough. I don't know about you, but I'm very emotional. Going into right around the July 4 timeframe as we try and target right around that 6150 or 61 or 615 rather in SPY mark. We'll take a look at what happened today, but we are at all-time highs. Like I said the other day, we were seeing a lot of breath here. JP Morgan all-time highs. There are lots of different kind of firms, Microsoft, Robinhood. There was a lot of good stuff happening underneath the hood. So like a look, we'll get into a lot more. We'll summarize the week and really what happened, what drove it. It was we got a good one for you today. This guy looks like he owns some stocks and also maybe he let out a little fart coin or something, but he looks very excited and I get it. So today, natural gas, we'll recap the day. It was actually a global bid today. Japan and Germany really jumped today. We'll take a look at those charts. I haven't looked at those in a while. And natural gas had quite a jump. Chris, if you're watching, we'll take a look at the chart. And the gold miners in Australia drop, a very commodity-led drawdown today in markets. Australia, very commodity-driven. We'll take a look at that chart. I haven't looked at EWJ in quite a while. And the gold miners drop. We called this before when, beta catches a bid, they sell the gold miners, and that's your opportunity to get into an absolute superstar. New all-time highs for, let me get ready to take a breath for this one. SPY, QQQ, industrials, tech, Japan, communications, and there's a lot more. I was going to write ETC, but I want you people to think that was a ticker as well that probably also hit a new all-time high. And this week, what really did it was a big double-digit drop on oil and volatility. We said don't chase oil last week on the show. We said it's going to look to give in any day now, and it really collapsed. Iran's attack really didn't do anything to the bases, and markets really shrugged it off instead of an escalation. Almost rarely pays to be skeptical. You sound smart, but ironically, it's actually the dumb thing to do. And, like that, or cash in the quote, if the war happens, everyone's dead. You're not going to really worry or be happy about the money you made in the puts. So oil and volatility, big collapses this week. We'll take a look at both charts. And what do they buy? Semiconductors, NVIDIA, all-time highs. SMH looks amazing, obviously. So we'll take a look. So things really look good when all is said and done. Let us get into the charts. We are rocking, we're rolling. Oh, apologies. The video the other day, you were looking at me for the entire second half of the video. Deepest apologies for that. That was never my intent. After I did the news pickup for paychecks, I believe, it never really picked back on to the screen share. So apologies for that. So yeah, anyways. All right. So I won't let it happen again. All right. So here, stock moves and SPY. We'll take a look at the intraday action. We actually peaked right around lunchtime at 12:30. That's when the all-time highs really broke through. And then we'll see what happened later in the day. NVIDIA added nearly 2% today. Palantir, a big fall off, down 9%. We were talking about, we'll see if 140 is that level or not. You can see it quite is still a level to contend with. It is $10 away from that. Amazon up 3%. Coinbase, finally some give back. It was still a good show. Thank you, Caleb. If you have a ticker, put it in. Have a happy Friday and weekend to you, Caleb. Thanks for watching. Coinbase, we said don't chase it. I was surprised to see it continue going up yesterday. Today, it shed 6%. So the chart I highlighted on Wednesday, it looks like it has maybe another $60 to fall. If you have a potential little domino trade going, you're waiting for the first, red candle, then today was the first day, and potentially have, $50 to go on the downside. So Coinbase looks a little bit ripe, especially in terms of, chasing some other parts of market performers and then selling some recent ones. Other big moves, Nike, or Meta rather, first added 1%. Stock looks absolutely great. One of the leaders in Mag 7. Nike, a huge move up to 15%, up 15% off of their earnings. Earnings, by the way, start for the major corporates leading with the financials, JP Morgan, in about 2.5 weeks. That could fuel markets higher as well if estimates continue going up and they report better than expected. We'll talk about the macro in a little bit when I go on the SPY chart. Google up 3% and gold down 2%. We'll take a look at that. Gold got hit today with this global and equities bid. So real fast, as we go into the intraday first, so we open nice and strong here, right at 6:13, and then we continue to rally all the way till 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. We hit 1616 in the SPY, and then they sold it off. I believe there was a Canada deal headline that happened with the presidency, and they sold the market down from 616 all the way down to 611. So you see the market was still jittery. It quickly shed 1% just like that in 2 hours. We bottomed at 230. The all-important VWAP is at 614, and they bid the market at 330. They want to go long into the weekend, and we ended up closing above VWAP. VWAP closed at 613.95. We closed above that by 55 cents, or nearly a tenth of a percent, and we closed up on the day 45 bips. As I zoom out, leader of the indice was the Dow, was up 90 bips of the majors. As I zoom out here, that is a new all-time high. That is a nice candle. We had contended really since December with this area of 613. We've tried to, kind of you were seeing like the NBA draft reminds me of the NFL draft, and the guys trying to jump and show you their reach. SPY's tried to show you its reach, its vertical leap at 613 all the way since, I'd say here tried to make its first jumps right after Thanksgiving, and now the little engine that could, after it got its teeth kicked in early April, now is getting those ups finally. The 200-day moving average is starting to get some slope into it. So for all intents and purposes, as I said, the bullish accumulation phase has begun. As of June 23rd is where I have my chart marked. Not the absolute bottom tick. To me, that would be curve fitting. So I'm not equating it with 592, but more so VWAP on the day, which is actually closer to 598. So for me, the move began there, and that should take us to right about the 615 marker. So I see bullish accumulation still happening in terms of duration through about the beginning of the following week. So after the 4th of July holiday, I'm targeting the 8th for this to about end. The only thing is I'm not really crazy chasing it here. I don't want us to get super extended from the moving average, specifically the 21-day exponential, and that's right about 595. I have another indicator, a different time frame that gets me down to 600. So I don't want to chase it up here. My upside target is right around 615. Of course, animal spirits and FOMO will participate, but that usually gives way to those sharp drops. Also, in terms of the bullish confirmation, I did not get a 70 here. I would have liked to get some overbought, really strong momentum behavior. It hasn't happened for quite a while. Actually, we haven't had a real fervor, and I capitalize that as equate that with being over 70 RSI. We haven't had that, and it barely scratched. December 4th was the last time we hit 608 in SPY that day, and we ended up not being able to break through 608 for another 2 months after that. So it's interesting to see here. Would have liked to see 70. It's another indicator as well. This lets me know I don't think we're going to 620 tomorrow. I would immediately buy 700 calls that expire next Friday. For example, my upside target, and I've been bullish, and I've been saying this, so through about next Tuesday, still eyeing about 6 for 15. There will be spots. Hopefully we highlight them here on the show. There was a lot of bifurcation the other day. Don't chase Coinbase. You can get into OK low, and that trade's worked out. I know a couple of folks that contacted me on that, and that's awesome. So, and it's worked out for me as well. So let's continue this. Again, there's a convergence here. I'm looking at these moving averages in the middle Bollinger Band spot, and I use these numbers, and it's right at, there's a lot of convergence right here between 595 to 600, and I don't want to get multiple percentage points away from that, but absolutely great looking breakout here. Would like to see a little bit stronger. Again, we pierced 616 today, and I'm closing at 614. But that is my talk on the macro. Expect more bullishness in terms of duration for the next week and a half. Maybe some zigs and zags, but the market looks very good. And in terms of what the next correction will be, what I'm targeting for, end of July, potentially right around that 600 mark for a correction point, and that will be your sell-off. Don't forget, old resistance becomes new support. So that old 610 level that we continue to have problems with for months and months, that's going to be our new floor. And all those folks that said, oh, it's too expensive to buy, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, the pain trade is higher. Okie dokie. Let's look at some moves of the day, the week, and the year. It is a big, big program. Heat wave is over here in the Northeast. Thank goodness. I hope you get outside where you are. All right. First off, go to the nat gas. Big mover today, right? The SPY all-time highs, and you thought I was going to open with something typical. No, we're going with the biggest multiple standard deviation mover of the day. That's up 5.7% in natural gas. Natural gas still trying to have really a comeback against its 200-day moving average. Very important. I'm looking at the UNG. This is not the natural gas futures. UNG, it's 16. The 200-day moving average here is 1690. We're below that. A nice surge here of 5.6. I was on the show, I believe, last week saying when they start to bid up the markets, they're going to let this go. I still don't like net gas. I think this is as good as it gets short term. Sorry, Chris. I think if it gets to about 1670, which is a 21-day exponential moving average, I think that's enough strength for it. And again, the figure I just pointed out was 1670, and then again, a higher tier would be above 1690. So I personally don't like it for multiple reasons. A little bit surprising, up 5.6. I don't know if there's a data or a barrel EIA number, but don't like it, and it's not even above the 50 RSI here. Realized had one flash in the pan here on that surge June 18th as it got to 18, and then we thought it was going to at least slide below the 200-day of 1690, a very important level for UNG, honestly, going back for sure since April. So yeah, don't really like it here for the next week. Yeah, and we'll actually highlight this later in the show. This actually was one of the worst places to be. I'll just cheat and look at the chart. This was the third worst place to be this week with a 6.5% loss, and that is even incorporating today. So we were pretty much right on that when they were bidding up the markets. Markets up a big, I believe, 3% this week. Semis up much more than that. We'll take a look. They didn't really bid up net gas. It was today only. Okay, next one, EWJ. This is a new all-time high for this guy. It's not just in the United States. Japan, new all-time highs. Let's take a look at the chart, see if the same opportunities exist, or what we said about SPY. Not a ton of upside right here, but obviously long for the year. SPY looks like it possibly may have regained its 2024 momentum, which is essentially 2% gains per month, annualized 24% CAGR. Absolute amazing momentum. I think the market has at least, there's just obviously a blind man call, at least 7% to go for the year. That's 1% per month roughly, but probably much more than that. The Fed is likely cutting in September and December. The market will probably buy, typically as they do, to get ahead of it, and that'll put fuel on the fire for the market higher. Bonds still look like garbage. Gold will go higher. Stocks going higher inherently is still kind of inflationary. You want to own them. It's a good hedge. So kind of a flywheel there. EWJ, kind of the same chart. I like the bullish accumulation phase for this as well. Started roughly right around the United States. You see here the June 23rd, same count. Big bar here at 71 it began, and it quickly ripped to 75. My full valuation short term is 75.5. So bullishness for this for about another week and a half. But I wouldn't want to, chase it much more beyond that. So about another maybe 20 cents or so for EWJ, but it will have a nice week to 2 weeks going forward. And again, crazy, this did not get anywhere near overbought measure reading as well. So again, these typically, when I see the charts, you get kind of quick falls there because there was these spikes, a couple of names potentially did it, etc. You can kind of expect a mean reversion here to get to that 74 handle. I don't expect that just yet. More so in a couple of weeks. Okay, and then I told you it was a global bid. So we had Japan up 1.8%. Look at Germany. Germany up a big 1.6% is big for Germany. These guys hit all-time highs on the 5th, 22 days ago. You look at this chart, a nice $2 gain. That's a pretty big move, 5%. Since the same thrust of June 23rd, a lot of different markets globally caught a bid that day. So I hope you weren't sleeping 4 days ago. It was Monday, I believe. Yes. So right here, again, this one has a little bit more upside, I think, short term. Again, similar bullish accumulation phase started on the 23rd. See bullishness lasting through about the 8th. And I believe this is going to go to about 43, potentially 43.20. I think this group looks good again. Finally, S&P, Steph Curry's picked up the ball and he's back in the game. And now everyone's playing. So it's Steph being obviously SPY. Yeah, great looking chart. No one told Germany April 7th that the U.S. was having 52-week low. These guys barely touched the 200-day moving average and they bought it. This has been a very great looking story for the entire past year. Absolutely great looking chart through Yen-Mageddon, through the SPY 52-week lows. Thing looks absolutely great. I love entries under 41.30. Kind of you got away from that, in the past 2 days. But short term, we have a position on and whatnot. I think this is heading towards about 43. I'd say 43-ish, 43 even, about 70 cents up. So about another 1.75% over the next 10 days or so. So Germany looks good. All right, what did they sell off today? Gold miners down 3.5% today. That's pretty much pretty significant. These guys peaked on June 13th at 54.70, and boom, an almost quick down percent here. They've dropped it essentially all the way to its 50-day moving average. For me, when you have a superstar and you get down to the 50, that's kind of like a green light telling you it's probably a decent time to start a position. I would love if they drop this to about 49.30. I think that's kind of outsized move, and you really need to see either beta pick up. I think with the lid being on S&P right here, I don't think this gets absolutely liquidated. It tagged the lower Bollinger Band, like I said, the 50-day moving average. I think this can easily pop to $52, and I expect it to over the next week or two. And then my longer-term target in terms of 3 weeks is this heads back towards about $55. So this looks right for call spreads. Be careful in terms of liquidity. You could buy the 60 delta calls. Going out to, I would almost go September. I like this story. Who doesn't since 2024 easily. And then sell the 55 strike, see what it pays. Okay, next thing they sold, again, commodity conscious Australia, very commodity conscious nation. They sold this down 1.3% today. We haven't looked at this chart in a while. These guys peaked last September at $27. Pretty range. I mean, you look at the 200-day moving average, it's absolute brick wall for all of 2025. So the consensus on this ETF and this nation is these guys are worth 25.10. Can you hold it? And they have been. They really have since May 2nd. Again, this looks like it has upside here. I like this for the next 2 weeks, and this looks like it's headed to about 20. I would say right around 26.80. I mean, it's just continuing to base in terms of this rectangle, a huge rectangle if you count it, that between 25 and 26. I say it goes to the top, and then it becomes a sell. But this looks like it's got another, like I said, about 90 cents to go to the upside, another 3-ish% or so. Probably, similar with a gold bid. You compare it, buy one, sell the other, buy that GDX spread that we just mentioned, sell Australia, or vice versa. But gold is the superstar, not this one. Okay, and then ASHR, China was down today. They did sell China. FXI was down about 90 bips. This is a similar ETF, different constitution, down 1.05. So you can see here, very differently traded, not as liquid, I guess, but it does trade very much. Brick wall too on this 200-day moving average, stuck at 26.71. They sold it pretty, that's pretty decent today on a global rally essentially. So they sold this off down 1.1. To me, this was overbought at 27.40. I didn't really expect it getting. I know it's really hard to kind of focus in on here, but 27.40 is where I thought it was going to pretty much hit its head based on technical analysis, and then start to move towards 26.95. So for me, kind of a nothing, honestly, right here. I think this is going to start to be magnetized towards 26.70 or a small move lower, which may have begun today. All right, top 3 gainers of the past 5 days. Let's do it. The best place to be in the past 5 days. It was a very close one. I will get to semiconductors, but there was a space that just barely edged out semis, just barely, and it was the copper miners, even being down 1% today. These guys had the best week in the entire ETF marketplace, up 6.6%, narrowly beating out SMH. So these guys, I was bullish on them a couple days ago. Again, a beautiful thrust also on the 23rd, started at 41.5, although I'll use the VWAP to give a fair price at 42.20. My full target on this was 45, for a full kind of 2 to 3 week trade. It went to 45.69 just a handful of days later. And that's kind of it. So now it becomes a little bit more of a tougher trade in terms of seeing some zigging and zagging. Still 45 upside, but it really did everything in a handful of days. So like COPX, had a great week. The best place to be this entire week. 200-day is starting to stabilize here. It is still going down. I'm sorry. Apologies. Just started going up again just this yesterday at 41.25. That is your support. And there is significant resistance. I mean, really going back just over the 52-week highs back to last October at 47. So essentially range bound for now, but a nice looking chart for copper. The best chart this week for the copper miners. Number 2, just behind it, just on its tail, the quarterback of the market, the leader, semiconductors, up 6.4%. So I'm really nitpicking. The COPX barely edged it out, but here's your SMH. And look at where we are in terms of the range here. The 52-week high is back here. The all-time high for SMH is 283. We are at 278 here. You remember this awful box that we were stuck in all last year. You sell it at 270. You buy it at about 235. It was a trade for about 5 months. Right here, similar to all the charts I've said, this, was bullish, similar on the 23rd at about 260, and it had the entire run in about 5 days. So again, full evaluation here of upsides about 275. So I don't think it's ready to break out yet, but it is very encouraging and constructive and progressive, and great to see that this is now enjoying multiple periods of being overbought since May 13th. That is going to put a fork in that sell-off and really confirm that support at 240. These were gifts if you were able to buy SMH under 240 here. And of course, NVIDIA being at all-time highs, and the strength of Broadcom is lifting this higher. Beware, or not beware, just be on caution. Earnings start next month. This can go a lot higher, or this can come down to earth. Also notice the tight convergence here on the moving averages at 260. So it lets me think that we're getting a little bit above our skis in the short term here. Also, in terms of the duration of overbought periods, we're also running into that headway. So maybe another day or two, and this market starts to descend a little bit. But again, those highs that we were trying to scratch, 265, that old resistance will become our new support, and that is a wonderful thing. Semi is the second best place to be in the entire market. Third, one of the leaders of 2024, the airlines. Who is one of the biggest beneficiaries of oil collapsing? It's, of course, the airlines that have to buy and hedge their jet fuel. The airlines up 5.5% this week. Airlines up 1.25% today. Look at what it's doing. It's gotten right to a rising 200-day moving average, literally closed on it by 2 pennies. What do? I like this right now. I do not see, well, we'll get to the oil chart in a second, but I'm functioning and operating and digesting and analyzing this chart alone. This looks like it's getting to 23.85 in about, so another dollar in the next 2 weeks. I like this chart. So essentially what I'm doing is 23.85 is right here. I think it has a little bit more than to get out of this consolidation here from earlier this month. I do think it'll remain under 24 though. But again, another dollar, and it looks to hold at 22.87 200-day moving average support. It's really had a hard time with it since mid-March. Since this oversold behavior started to kick in, Jets has not looked like itself. Still give it the benefit of the doubt, but the oil rise has not helped it. And now it's really starting to get a little bit of a lift. Top 3 losers the past 5 days. We were just talking about it. Oil down a whopping 12%. We said don't chase it. And of course, a huge 8% collapse happened on Monday. And a lot of folks exited that trade and they bought equities. Note, we keep on talking about this Monday with some notable moves in the market. I hope you did take some actions. Oil right here. So still don't like it. Do note that all it's done after all this 12% collapse this week is it essentially just closed right inside of its 21-day exponential moving average. And as you can see here, the 200-day is at 72.87. It is holding that by just a handful of pennies, 40 cents, or about 0.5%. What now? I still think it has a nasty most of next week, I would say. And I think this heads towards... I don't like the chart here. The 200-day moving average is rising up by about 2 cents a day. And look at this hug on the 50 RSI. It really has had positive trading since May 9th. Although I'm just not. We've seen sell-offs like this before. Right here, coming off the 52-week high earlier this month, or earlier in the year, mid-January to be exact, January 15th, when USO hit $84. And when the RSI gets kind of exhausted at these levels, it really starts to have a tango with the 200-day. So I think it's just going to be tethered around 73, but potentially with a downside, because I know folks like to exit this trade potentially, and especially get into equities with the market doing what it's doing. So I still, for some reason, I just see it potentially going down to $70 even, and essentially getting at the top of these ranges, and essentially filling in that gap or revisiting that gap from that we filled here earlier this month. So USO, the worst place to be this month or this week, down 12%, got way overdone. Another thing was we said it is not going to close multiple days outside of its upper Bollinger Band. It just doesn't happen. Even Ukraine-Russia war, it doesn't happen multiple days in a row. You got 4 here, and then the news on Monday that the attack didn't do much to oil fields essentially in the bases. It was at 8%, and now here we are tussling with a 200-day. So that's my call on oil, the worst place to be this week. Second worst place, it's kind of a similar trade, was with you, if you bought that fear, you bought oil and people said, oh, crude's going to $140 a barrel. You freaked out, panic. You could sound smart maybe in terms of risk management. No. Second worst place to be this week, volatility. VXX down 9.5% this week, essentially flat today, down 30 bips. Look at the 200-day moving average here. It's going down now by about 2 cents a day. It's at 51 even. Call on VXX should be pretty much the exact inverse of S&P. I do not like VXX for about another same exact thing through the early next week, so about the 8th or so. This looks like it wants to visit 46 bucks. So I have right there where my cursor is. Essentially, that's like the heydays of where we were late March after the Fed, if you don't recall. So in terms of where VXX was, and of course the old 52-week low on VXX last July at $40 even. So I don't think it's quite that low right here, but I do think this heads towards $46, another $2 off in the next week and a half. So you can sell. Well, we'll get through some other strategies. You could sell, puts outright in the market if you continue to see vol going lower. If you don't think the market's going to take off, and I don't think it takes off right here, you could sell, 620 calls and SPY, etc. See what they pays, of course, in your duration and how cracked out you are to zero DTEs if you're really kind of chasing that daily income. Okay, and the third worst place to be this week, we already alluded to it earlier, or more than alluded. We looked at the chart. Nat gas down 6.5%. We talked about where we think this is going here. It was the third worst place to be. I don't like it for the next week either. I think this wants to go to about, potentially $15 or so. I think it hits its head on the 200-day moving average, but I don't, not really a fan of natural gas right here, especially with the market hitting all-time highs. Okay, top 3 trades of the past 5 days. If you knew today, the market was going to make all-time highs today. It came June 27th. Guess what? The best way to play it this week from Monday open through today was short oil, short volatility, and long COPX. Congratulations. All right, and now one of my favorite times of the show, the top 3 trades of the past 52 weeks. We now have, on 2025 basis, we have 6 months of data, essentially. Monday is the last day of the month. But we have, a year's worth of data that we look at right here. And then best performing ETF in all the land is, I think you may have guessed it, IBIT, up 73% year over year. That is your leader. Let's take a look at Bitcoin right now and how it's setting up. Of course, Bitcoin all-time highs on May 22nd. I'm doing this through IBIT 63.70. Here we are today, 60.88. See how it trades this weekend. This one looks good. A little bit, you can see the W here after the all-time highs, holding 50 RSI as we have been since mid-April. Good thing to see. Great looking chart all year long. I think it's a great entry right here with a 60 handle. I still think this has about another. This looks a little bit messy. I don't think it's going to be a straight line. Of course, as I always say, see how it trades this weekend. To me, this looks like it wants to get to about $64. It's going to be a little bit messy, but over the next 2 weeks. So $64 would be a new all-time high for Bitcoin. That's what I see. I wouldn't be shocked if I change the forecast next week. This has been a couple of zigs and zags. Like I said, a lot of other identified markets. June 23rd had that thrust. I expect to see a little bit more lift here. Of course, this is the year-over-year superstar, so it reacts differently. They don't buy, the winners on a day like today sometimes. They go into the laggards. When we go into the new all-time highs, it wasn't XLC, XLK. Those were, today, yes. But my point is sometimes they bid up the laggards, and right now IBIT's been the winner. So this week it may just need a little bit more time. Again, you have a convergence of moving averages at 60 even. I think it's a great entry right here. I think $64 in about 2-ish weeks. Your leader year over year, you got to be in it. It's a question of how much you allocate. Number 2, and this one hit a new 52-week high today. This has fuel as we speak, ARC, and it's been overbought since June 18th. So about 9 days. Get in line. This thing's just been going up, 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 even on lesser volume, as you can see here. Look at the stochastic momentum mix. This thing is a stallion on a treadmill since May 9th. This thing was at $52 May 9th, and we touched $71 today. You were year over year second runner up, up 58%. So you got IBIT with 73, ARK at 58. Right here, short term, ARK, I've been bullish. I said you have to own it as well. We were talking about it on the morning show with a couple weeks ago. Really was a big thing of mine, and this has worked exceptionally well during Trump administration number 1. Look it up. I think it was actually the best performing ETF, and I think regionals was 2. This has just done a little bit too much, as I said. I don't think it's going to go on a 3-week overbought experience here. You can see how long it's happened in the past. It typically lasts, a week or less. So I think that kind of ends soon. It's nice to see a bullish, confirmation in terms of it being over 70 with the new 52-week highs. But I just think this is going to gravitate towards about 64.5 over the next 2 weeks. So I wouldn't personally chase it. Again, about $65, $64. So that's about a $5 reduction. Maybe today was the first step towards that. But an absolute superstar, when that does happen, or if and when that does happen in 2 weeks and you get a 64 handle, you buy that. I think it's going to continue to be a Kathy Wood summer. And then number 3, best ETF in the entire marketplace, the Gold Miner Juniors. They slammed it today, down 3%. What are you going to do about it? The highs for these guys came June 5th at nearly $72. They sold it down to 65. I think it smells of opportunity. We were also talking about this on the show. An amazing opportunity would be, give me a second. Oh, and for just those, I use GDXJ as a proxy. GLD and GDX, the bigs, are right behind this. It's very, very close. GDXJ is a very liquid and a little bit more a risk-on way to play the move. An entry of $64 would be absolutely tremendous. I love the risk to reward there. It's had this, if you can see here, the corrections each time after highs subsequently have gone to the lower Bollinger Band or that 50-day moving average and has recovered and not touched the 200-day moving average within 2 to 3%. So I like the positioning here coming off of 72 down to 65. I love the pickup. I do think this is at about $68 in about 2 to 3 weeks time, like 68 calls. Check the 60 Delta calls for September and see what you're willing to lay out. But some really, really good constructive stuff. Year over year, you got to be, the story has been Bitcoin, ARK, gold. You got to be involved. It's a matter of how much. You also have to be involved and being a nice person. And you absolutely have an awesome weekend. And thanks for watching. And we will speak with y'all on Monday. Next week's a short week. Holiday. Happy birthday, America. Woo, new all-time highs. Woo, new all-time highs. Woo.